Welcome to the channel. If you want to improve your self-awareness, your communication, your overall physical or mental well-being, or you're on the lifelong journey that is self-improvement, then you're in the right place. In this video, my goal is to impart onto you 5 specific skills that you can start using today to argue less, connect more, and come across as calmer, more capable, and more emotionally grounded. By the end of this video, you'll have a checklist that you can use to guide you through any tough conversation. Particularly skill number 4 is the most underrated and underused. But before we get that far, let's get into skill number 1, because this one alone can prevent half the arguments people have every day. Skill 1, slowing down before you respond. Most people think that quick responses make them sound confident, but in reality, quick responses often come from emotion, not intention. In fact, most of the time when you respond immediately, I would say that that isn't even your true self. I don't think that response is a reflection of how you are truly and honestly. You're allowing your knee-jerk reaction to take control over your response, which leads to you saying things that you probably didn't mean. When you reply instantly, you interrupt more, you assume more, you default to defensiveness. And as I said earlier, you say things that you don't mean. And all of that can damage communication. Why this skill works: your brain needs a moment to shift from reacting to responding. Even a brief pause is enough. That brief pause activates that reasoning part of your brain to catch up to the reaction. And by doing so, that reasoning part of yourself that I think is more true to who you are can take control of the situation. That tiny pause is the simplest form of emotional self control. It's the difference between sounding reactive and sounding composed. How to apply this immediately. Start using the 1 second rule. Before you speak, take 1 breath, or just count in your head to 1. Doing this will make you sound more thoughtful, more confident. It will reduce misunderstandings, and you will have greater emotional control. And people will notice the difference. In an example scenario, let's say someone says something slightly rude. Instead of firing back instantly, you pause. And suddenly your response comes off as much calmer, clearer, and more composed. Doing this also means that you prevent escalating the situation any further. Then you really look composed and confident, and you really look capable, as if you're in control of the situation. That small pause is a superpower. Skill 2, asking clarifying questions. Most communication problems come from one thing: assumption. We think we know what the other person meant. We think that they're mad. We think that they're criticizing us. We think they're attacking us. But when you ask clarifying questions, you remove that guesswork. You remove that uncertainty. Why do we fail to do this? I think we avoid asking clarifying questions because we're afraid that it makes us look confused, or we are confident that we already know what's being said, or that because we're scared of slowing down the conversation, or that we're reacting emotionally. But skipping clarification leads to a lot of misinterpretation, the source of most conflict. My piece of advice is, if there's even a small inkling of uncertainty, ask that question. Ask to make sure you don't have any doubt, and so that you can eliminate as much potential for misunderstanding to occur. Now, how to apply this: use questions like, when you say that, what do you mean exactly? Just to make sure I'm understanding, can you clarify what you meant by saying? Now, doing this, the benefits are twofold. 1, you obtain a better understanding of what the other person is trying to convey. And 2, a more low-key benefit to this is you come off as engaged. You come off as being more invested in the conversation, so the other person can become more comfortable and talk to you more openly. That way, you sound more confident and you don't sound confused. An example scenario, a coworker says, "Hey, this report wasn't what I expected." Now, at this point, most people would get defensive. Instead, you ask, "Oh, what part of it wasn't what you had expected?" Now, that isn't defensive. You're merely asking what they meant by that comment. Now you're on the same page. No conflict. The other benefit to doing this is you're giving them a second chance to adjust what they said. So I'm not going to deny that there will be situations where people want to say things to offend you or make you upset, rage bait you, maybe. But by doing this, you're giving them a chance to adjust what they said, or in a good case scenario, they didn't mean what you initially thought, and you're getting that certainty. Clarifying questions turn potential arguments into productive communication. People who ask good clarifying questions come across as more calm, confident, and emotionally mature, not weak. Skill 3, naming the emotion instead of accusing. This is the skill that separates mature communication from reactive communication. Most people communicate with accusations rather than emotions. What I mean by that, in the simplest form, is they use you statements. People will say, "You never listen. You're always late. You never help. You don't care about me." Those are examples of you statements where the statement is focused on you, the person you're talking to. But doing this by making these accusations and targeting the other person, you trigger a defensive response. And once people are in that state of mind, their ability to understand what you're saying goes down drastically. Now, the shift comes from describing the emotion you felt rather than attacking or accusing the character of the other person. How to apply this? Use statements like, "I felt ignored when that happened. I get anxious when plans change suddenly. I feel overwhelmed when we multitask conversations." See, now you're expressing the truth about how you felt in a given situation without attacking the other person. People are a lot more perceptive and understanding and patient when they hear emotions. That isn't the case when they hear accusations. That's just the truth of it. And we have to navigate around that. In an example, instead of saying, "You never help around the house," you say, "I feel stressed trying to handle everything by myself, and I would appreciate more help." Immediately, this type of dialogue opens up problem solving rather than fighting. This is the opposite of the blame and dominate style that a lot of us are probably familiar with. You're still being direct, but you're no longer attacking the person you're talking to. You're merely moving the frame from them to you. Skill 4, summarizing what you heard. As I said earlier, I think this skill is the most underrated, and I personally use this one the most. I use it all the time at work. I use it with my friends, but hardly anyone seems to use it. It is one of the most effective ways to prevent conflict and to build trust. Now, why this skill matters. People feel heard only when they feel understood. And the best way to show understanding is to reflect back what you heard. How to apply this? After someone speaks, say, "So, what I'm hearing is that right?" To make sure I'm understanding, you're saying, it takes maybe 10 seconds. This skill definitely takes a little bit longer than the three aforementioned ones, but the impact is huge. In an example, someone explains why they're upset, and you summarize it back to them. You say back to them what you heard. Immediately after doing that, the tension drops because now they know that you're not misinterpreting them. You're not preparing a rebuttal, you're actually listening. This skill also has two benefits. One, in that you're getting clarification by repeating or summarizing back what you heard. but also you're giving them the sense that you are invested and interested in the conversation. I won't deny that this skill takes a little bit more effort, but I would advise you to start by simply repeating the last thing the person said. Summarizing means you hear it and then you extract the main points and then you reword it and you say it back to whoever you're talking to. That is a much more advanced version of this skill. When you're first starting off, just try to repeat what they're saying, even if that means using the same words. Sometimes that's enough, and that's a great start. And this single habit can transform your relationships. People remember how safe it feels to talk to you. And that's what deepens trust in friendships, relationships, and even leadership at work. Unspoken expectations ruin relationships more than lies do. We assume that people should just know. We assume that they'll understand our preference, our triggers, our boundaries, but making those assumptions create resentment. Something I hear and see a lot in social media is, oh, if they wanted to, they would. But the reality is, no one thinks exactly alike. No one thinks exactly the same. Everyone has different lived experiences that they're pulling from and different lessons that they've learned. No one is going to be able to think exactly the way you do. And it's important to realize that. I think people fail this skill because they fear sounding demanding. They assume that the person should already know because they have this idea that everyone thinks similarly or alike. They don't want to risk conflict or they want to avoid vulnerability. But clear, honest communication avoids all those problems. For better or for worse, everyone thinks differently. How to apply this? Use direct, simple need statements like, I need more advanced time before plans change. I need quiet when I'm working. I need you to tell me when something's bothering you. This doesn't make you needy, it just makes you clear. In an example situation, instead of asking, why didn't you call? Say, I feel more connected when we check in once a day. Clear, direct, no drama. You're clearly communicating what you want and need and how that will benefit you. You are benefited because you feel more connected, and you're saying that you need or would like to have that check in. You're communicating exactly what you need. There's no, I feel, or you did this wrong. You aren't accusing them of anything, and you're not muddling the message by mixing in a bunch of side emotions. You're merely saying what you need and how that would help you. Communicating needs isn't a weakness, it's a responsibility. It's a sign of respecting the other person. I respect you enough to tell you what I need, and I respect that you are able to fulfill that need. It turns you into someone people can count on instead of someone that they have to guess around. The other benefit to this is, like the skill I mentioned earlier, there's no doubt that you will be in situations where you communicate your need very clearly and they still are unable to meet that expectation. But the difference is, after you've communicated your need clearly and they still fail to do so, now you have the valuable insight that maybe they're not compatible with you, and maybe they're not the best friend or partner or acquaintance for you. If they are unable to respect your needs or your boundaries, then at least now you have the certainty because you know that you communicated it clearly. It eliminates that guesswork and that uncertainty. Here's a quick way to turn these skills into daily habits. 1, the next conversation you have, pause before responding, even if it's just for 1 second. 2, ask at least one clarifying question. 3, use one I feel statement instead of a you statement. 4, summarize once in a meaningful conversation. That doesn't mean literally summarize. In the beginning, maybe you'll just repeat, and that's fine. 5, state one need clearly today, even a small one. Now, you don't need to use all 5 at once, especially in the beginning. Undoubtedly, In the beginning, if you try to use all five, it will be overwhelming and it will be hard. But try using one little by little every day until you get more and more comfortable about doing it. And then add another. But even just using one will have a noticeable difference. The core message of my channel is that great achievements are merely the culmination of dozens, if not hundreds, of small, intentional decisions and actions that are working towards that end goal. And this is no different. Little by little, you become more comfortable using each skill so that altogether, you can transform the way other people experience. So just try one of these today and pay attention to how other people react to you. Afterwards, come back. Tell me in the comments which skill you used, what happened, how it helped you, or maybe it didn't help you. Your example might help someone else who is watching this video. A common misconception about communication is that it merely means talking more. In reality, it's about talking smarter, more clearly, more efficiently. Communication is just as much about talking as it is about listening. And part of listening means slowing down, clarifying, expressing emotions clearly, and being honest about your needs. If you can master these 5 skills, you will become someone that people love talking to, someone that people feel comfortable with, someone who resolves conflicts confidently and efficiently, someone who leads their conversations with clarity instead of chaos. If you're working on different aspects of yourself, whether they be physical or mental or emotional, subscribe for more videos like this. It's important to keep ourselves accountable and to have a community where we can come together with the common goal, the lifelong goal that is self-improvement.